It was a hot afternoon in Ouagadougou. The sun blazed overhead, but the crowd didn't seem to care. Over 15,000 people stood shoulder to shoulder in Revolution Square, cheering and waving small flags. They had gathered to hear a long-awaited speech from Ibrahim Traoré, their young, fearless leader. Cameras flashed. Journalists whispered into microphones. All eyes were on the podium. Ibrahim stepped up to the mic in his usual calm, firm way. His words were like fire, passionate, full of purpose. He spoke of hope, of rebuilding, of unity. Then it happened. Mid-sentence, his voice faded. He squinted into the crowd. Something had caught his eye. A man, barefoot, thin, his clothes worn and dusty, was quietly making his way toward the stage. People gasped. Security moved, but Ibrahim raised his hand to stop them. The man held something, a folded note, trembling in his fingers. The cameras zoomed in. The crowd went completely silent. The homeless man stretched his hand out, and Ibrahim took the note. Then, without a word, the president froze. For 30 long seconds, he just stared at it. No one could have imagined what would happen next. Ibrahim slowly opened the note. His eyes moved back and forth, reading it carefully. At first, his face showed nothing. Then, very slowly, his expression changed. His lips trembled. He blinked. And for the first time in his public life, he took a step back from the microphone. The audience was stunned. Journalists whispered frantically, "What's happening? What's in the note?" The man who handed it to him stood silently, looking down, almost ashamed. Ibrahim turned to his aide, whispered something, then returned to the mic. But he didn't speak. Instead, he took the mic off its stand and walked down the steps, toward the man who gave him the note. The crowd parted like water. Nobody dared breathe. He reached the man and did something no one expected. He hugged him, tight, like someone hugging a brother they thought they lost forever. The man fell to his knees. Ibrahim knelt with him. Cameras caught everything. People were crying, even though they had no idea what the note said. The world was watching. But for Ibrahim, it wasn't about the cameras anymore. It was about what was written and who wrote it. Ibrahim helped the man stand, holding his shoulders gently. He asked his name. The man whispered something, and Ibrahim nodded slowly. Tears glistened in his eyes. He turned back to the mic and finally spoke. "Please forgive me," he said softly. "I need to pause this speech. I just received a message from someone I didn't expect to see again." The crowd murmured in confusion. Who was this man? Ibrahim unfolded the note again and read it aloud. "You once saved my life when I was a boy. You gave me food when no one would. You told me I mattered. But life got hard. I lost everything. I've been looking for a way to thank you. Today I found it." The square went quiet again. Children clutched their mothers. Old men removed their hats. Ibrahim's voice cracked. "I remember now," he said. "It was in 2007. I was a soldier stationed near the market. A boy, alone and starving, came to me. I gave him bread. I told him he had a future. He looked at the man beside him, and he never forgot. The world had just witnessed the beginning of something much deeper than a speech." The homeless man's name was Yakuba. He looked no older than 30, but his face was worn with hardship. As Ibrahim helped him onto a seat near the podium, cameras kept rolling. People leaned in. The atmosphere was heavy, like something sacred was unfolding. Ibrahim continued his speech, but not the one he had written. He began telling the real story behind Yakuba's note. "In 2007, he said, I was a simple soldier. We had just returned from patrol. I saw a boy, skinny, shaking, digging through a trash can behind the station. He turned to Yakuba. It was you." Yakuba nodded, tears flowing freely now. I gave him my lunch that day, dry rice and half a mango. But what I didn't know was, he had not eaten in 3 days. He was an orphan, hiding from gangs who were using children to steal. That meal saved him. The crowd was silent. Ibrahim's voice cracked again. That moment meant little to me then. But to him, it was everything. People in the crowd covered their mouths. Some wept quietly, and no one was looking at their phones anymore. Because what was happening was not just a speech, it was a soul speaking. Ibrahim placed his hand on Yakuba's shoulder and looked out at the crowd. I haven't forgotten that year, he said. There were many like him. Children running, hiding, starving. And we were soldiers, tired and angry. Some turned them away, but I couldn't. Because I, too, had once been that hungry child. The crowd gasped. It was the first time Ibrahim publicly shared something so personal. He looked into the distance, as if remembering something from far away. When I was 12, he continued, my mother died of malaria. My father had already passed. I slept in empty classrooms. I washed cars to eat. One day a woman gave me warm porridge and said, even leaders start with empty stomachs. I never forgot her. People in the audience began openly crying. This wasn't a speech anymore. It was truth. It was pain. It was connection. And yet, in the middle of this raw emotion, Ibrahim smiled. Sometimes we carry people in our memories and don't realize they carry us back. He looked at Yakuba again. I saved him once, but today, he saved me. And just like that, the air felt different, like the weight of the nation's soul had shifted. Now the crowd wanted to know, what exactly was in the note? Ibrahim raised it slowly. The paper was torn. The ink had smudges from Yakuba's shaky hands, but the words were clear. He read it again, this time aloud. If you're reading this, it means you made it. I watched you rise. I watched you speak for us. I slept on the streets while you stood on stages. But I never hated you. I never blamed you. I was just proud to say, once, he gave me bread. Thank you. You changed my life. The crowd lost it. Some clapped. Others simply stood in silence, hands over their hearts. Parents hugged their children. A woman fainted and had to be carried away gently by medics. The cameras caught every tear, every sob, every shaking head that couldn't believe what they had just witnessed. Then Ibrahim said something no one expected. I don't want this man to go back to the streets tonight. Not ever again. Not while I breathe. The crowd roared, but Ibrahim wasn't done. Bring him home, not just for tonight. Let's change his story, completely. And just like that, a nation that came to hear a political speech witnessed a moment of deep, unforgettable humanity. The national television network didn't cut the broadcast. In fact, they zoomed in closer. This wasn't politics anymore. It was humanity in its purest form. Ibrahim asked for a chair to be brought beside him. Yakuba sat there, nervous, shivering, overwhelmed by the eyes of the world. Ibrahim gave him his own bottle of water and removed his jacket, placing it over Yakuba's shoulders. That jacket, dark green, lined with gold trim, was part of his ceremonial uniform, but he didn't care. This man, Ibrahim said to the crowd, reminds me that leadership isn't standing above others. It's remembering who you once were. Then something remarkable happened. A woman in the crowd stepped forward. She wore a faded head wrap, her dress frayed at the edges. She spoke with a shaky voice. Ibrahim, she said, you helped my son too, in 2015. You paid for his school fees when his father died. Gasps swept through the crowd. One by one, more voices rose, people recalling tiny private moments when Traoré had quietly stepped in to help. And suddenly, this was no longer about a single note. It was about a lifetime of unseen kindness, now coming to light. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the square. Ibrahim sat in silence beside Yakuba. He leaned in and whispered, "What happened after that day? After I gave you food?" Yakuba swallowed hard. "I tried," he said. "I found small jobs. I sold sachets of water on the roadside. But when the floods came in 2009, I lost everything. No shelter, no money, no ID. People walked past me like I was invisible." His voice broke. "I came here today not to beg, just to remind you, you mattered to someone." Tears rolled down Ibrahim's face. He stood again. "There are thousands like him," he told the crowd. "Children who vanish into the streets. But they're not gone. They're watching. They're waiting. And one small act can echo for years." Then he pointed to the cameras. "If you're watching this at home, if you ever gave someone a little food, a little kindness, know this, it stays with them." He looked back at Yakuba with new purpose. "And if you're the one still waiting for help, hold on, because your story isn't finished." The crowd erupted in thunderous applause, but something even more emotional was about to happen next. Just when the moment seemed to calm, Ibrahim reached into the inside pocket of his now empty jacket, now worn by Yakuba. He pulled out a small white envelope. He looked at it for a moment quietly. Then, without saying a word, he handed it to Yakuba. Yakuba hesitated. The crowd leaned in. He opened it slowly, and inside was a key, a real key, silver, simple, and beneath it, a handwritten address. Ibrahim spoke softly but clearly into the microphone. "It's not just a place to sleep. It's a home. It's yours." The crowd broke. People cried out loud. Journalists wiped their eyes mid-report. A child in the front row asked her mother, "Why is everyone crying?" The mother whispered, "Because we've never seen this before." Yakuba covered his face and fell into Ibrahim's arms. For the second time that day, the leader of a nation held him like family. "I don't want you to ever feel invisible again," Ibrahim said. The cameras caught everything, but the most powerful moments weren't in the words. They were in the silence that followed. Because sometimes, the quietest scenes speak the loudest truth. As Yakuba held the key in trembling hands, Ibrahim placed a firm hand on his shoulder and whispered something only a few near the stage could hear. "What's your full name?" The man paused. "My name? It used to be Yakuba Sanu, but now people just call me the beggar or that mad man. I haven't heard my real name in years." Ibrahim stood tall again and faced the cameras. "Let the world hear it today," he declared. "This is Yakuba Sanu, a Burkina Bay son, a human being, and from this day forward no one will call him anything less." There was thunderous applause, but also quiet sobbing from the crowd, because in that moment, many realized how easy it is to forget someone's name, and with it, their worth. Someone in the media box whispered, "I've never seen a president do this." Reporters across the globe began typing furiously. Social media lit up. But Ibrahim wasn't looking at the cameras anymore. He was looking at Yakuba like a long-lost brother. And Yakuba, he looked like someone who'd just been given his name and his dignity back. A few minutes later, as they sat side by side again, Yakuba reached into his worn bag. "Ibrahim," he said, "there's something I didn't tell you. The note I gave you earlier. There's a copy of it in here too. I wrote it twice, in case you didn't see the first." He pulled out a crumpled sheet, folded many times. Ibrahim took it gently, and once again silence fell as he opened it. There were only a few words, written in uneven handwriting, the ink smudged by tears or rain. It read, "You once gave me bread. I never forgot. Today I give you my last words. Thank you, before I die forgotten." The crowd gasped. Yakuba lowered his head. "I had planned to walk into the river this week. I had no one left, no purpose. I just wanted to tell you before I went. Before he could finish, Ibrahim stood up and hugged him again. You're not forgotten. You're not finished. And you're not alone. There wasn't a dry eye left. Even security guards turned their backs to wipe their faces. It was no longer about politics, speeches, or titles. This was about one man giving another a reason to live. Ibrahim Traoré stood once more, visibly emotional. His voice cracked slightly as he held the note in the air. Burkina Faso, he said. How many other Yakubas are walking among us, unseen, unheard, unloved? The crowd stood in silence. This moment, this note, it has changed me. I don't want this to end as just a touching story. I want this to be the beginning of something bigger. He turned to Yakuba. I promise you, your story will not be wasted. Then, addressing the entire nation, he declared, starting next week, we launch Project Dignity, a national initiative to find and restore the lost, the homeless, the forgotten. One person at a time. Not with handouts, but with homes, purpose, and identity. The crowd erupted. Some people fell to their knees in tears. Others clapped until their hands turned red. In that moment, something shifted in the air. Not just hope, but belief. And while thousands celebrated, Yakuba sat quietly beside the man who had once handed him bread, and had now handed him a second life. This wasn't a president saving a citizen. It was a brother lifting another from the dust and saying, stand with me, the world is watching. As Ibrahim and Yakuba sat in the shade behind the stage, Yakuba reached into his coat one last time. There's something else, he said. I've kept this for 23 years. He unfolded a torn black and white photograph, faded, wrinkled, but still clear. It showed a young soldier in uniform, crouched beside a barefoot child holding a dry piece of bread. Ibrahim stared at it. Slowly, his eyes widened. That boy is you, Yakuba whispered. Ibrahim's hand trembled. I was on border patrol during that famine. I remember you were alone, crying. I gave you the last piece of bread in my bag. Tears rolled down Yakuba's cheeks. I waited days for you to come back, but you never did. I thought you died, or forgot. Ibrahim couldn't speak. Instead, he placed the photo on the podium before the nation. This is what I forgot. Not the act, but the face. I gave bread. He gave me purpose. The crowd went still. People stared at the boy in the photo, and then at the man beside their president. Two lives that had crossed once in silence were now reunited in front of the world. Yakuba looked down at his feet. I've never worn real shoes since that day. I buried the pair you gave me behind a mango tree near the river. I told myself, when I felt human again, I'd go dig them up. Ibrahim looked at him, puzzled. Why? Because those shoes reminded me of kindness. But I didn't feel worthy of kindness anymore. Silence. The president reached into the box by his side, unwrapped a new pair of clean leather sandals, and gently placed them on the ground before Yakuba. These aren't just shoes. They're a symbol. Today, you are worthy again. Yakuba shook his head, fighting tears. No, Ibrahim. You've already done more than enough. Ibrahim leaned forward. No. You gave me a reason to keep fighting for the forgotten. You reminded me of the man I wanted to be before the titles, before the politics. These shoes, they're not for walking away. They're for walking home. The moment was so sacred that no one spoke. The media didn't dare cut to commercial. The camera zoomed in, capturing the sandals, the dirt on Yakuba's feet, and the truth of a man reborn. The ceremony had long passed its scheduled end. Still, no one moved. Ibrahim stood center stage with Yakuba beside him. No microphone, no teleprompter. Just silence. And yet, that silence spoke louder than any words. Children held onto their parents' hands tighter. Old men wiped tears without shame. Women in the front rows placed their hands on their hearts. After nearly 2 full minutes, Ibrahim finally spoke, but softly. We always think the loudest voices are the most powerful. But today, a quiet man with nothing left but a note reminded me. The most powerful things are often said in silence. He turned to Yakuba. From the moment you handed me that note, this country changed. And then, for the first time in public, Ibrahim Traoré did something no president in the nation's history had done. He knelt. He knelt before Yakuba, not as a politician, as a human being. Gasps echoed across the square. Some covered their mouths. Others dropped their phones, unable to believe what they were witnessing. No security rushed in. No aides tried to stop him, because they understood. This wasn't weakness. It was strength, the kind that rewrites history. And at that moment, Burkina Faso stood still, forever changed. After rising from his knees, Ibrahim took a slow breath and reached once more into his pocket. This time, it wasn't a speech. It was a folded sheet of government policy. I was going to announce a new program today, he said. Free housing for 1,000 families. Job programs, it's written here. Approved, planned. He held the document high. But what is a plan, if it forgets who it's for? He turned to Yakuba. Today, I won't just announce policy. I will begin with you. Right there, on stage, in front of the nation, Ibrahim signed Yakuba's name as the first beneficiary of a new national dignity program for the homeless. He will have a home, a job, a name in our records again. And so will the others we've forgotten. Applause began quietly. Then it grew, until the entire square shook. But Ibrahim wasn't done. Today, we don't just feed a man, we restore him, because sometimes the one we ignore holds the key to remind us who we are. Yakuba wept, not because of what he received, but because he felt seen. A nation that had forgotten him finally remembered. As the sun dipped behind the horizon, cameras zoomed in on the piece of paper that had changed everything. Ibrahim gently opened it for all to see. Written in shaky handwriting were only 10 words. Do you still remember the bread you gave me? That was all. But those words carried 23 years of hunger, pain, and silent gratitude. Ibrahim looked into the crowd. This was not just a reminder, it was a mirror. He held up the note, voice thick with emotion. I gave bread that day and forgot. He received it and remembered. Which of us was richer? You could hear people crying in the audience. Even the news anchors reporting live wiped their eyes on air. Suddenly, the crowd began whispering something in unison. At first it was soft, then louder, clearer. Nsugrila, Nsugrila, Nsugrila. It means, we are awake, a chant of unity, of purpose. Traoré stood tall, not above them, among them. And in that moment, Burkina Faso was not just a country. It was a family. One note, one act, one man, reminded them all. The next morning, international headlines exploded. The president who knelt. Burkina Faso redefines leadership. A note that changed a nation. But on the streets of Ouagadougou, the headlines didn't matter. What mattered was that people were smiling again. Children asked their parents about the man in the coat. And for the first time in years, Yakuba walked into a community center, not as a beggar, but as a mentor. He had been offered a new role, coordinator for human dignity and street reintegration. Yes, the man who had no name on a list now had his name on the door. Ibrahim visited him quietly that evening. As they shared roasted corn and tea under the stars, Yakuba whispered, I never wanted the world to see me, just you. Ibrahim smiled. You showed me what the world needed to see in me. And that was the end. But not really, because this moment now lives in you. Yes, you watching this right now. If this story made you cry, if it made you feel hope, then like this video. Share it with someone who needs light. Drop a comment. One word. Hope. And most importantly, subscribe for more stories that touch the soul. This isn't just a channel. It's a movement. Let's remember the forgotten together.